I threw away your belongings. We don't need a daughter-in-law who's such a hassle, planning to give birth at her parents' house. LOL. With those words, my mother-in-law forcibly dragged me out of the house, even though I was still in my pajamas. I couldn't even put on my shoes, and the only thing I had with me was my phone. I called my mom. Luckily she was nearby. I waited for her at a local diner. Hearing the story, both my mom and sister were furious. They quickly made a call. This call was the beginning of my mother-in-law and husband's downfall. My name is Katie, 28 years old. I married Sam, 2 years my senior, a year ago. My father-in-law owns a big company. Sam was in line to be the next CEO, but for now, he's training at one of the subsidiary companies. That's where I met him. His position as the next CEO of the main company was a secret at that workplace. I dated him without knowing any of this, and I didn't even know about his father until right before we got married. That's when he confessed, "Actually, I'm going to be the next CEO." I was truly shocked. I couldn't believe he was set to be the main company's CEO. Given his competence and popularity, once he told me, it made sense, and so I became the wife of the future CEO. Upon marrying, Sam moved to the main company's office. I continued working at the same place. My father-in-law told me, "I've heard you're a young leader in your workplace. I hope you keep up the good work." But my mother-in-law, she said, "Why would a wife neglect her home to work?" She was strongly against me working. I thought there wouldn't be any problems since we weren't living together. But I was wrong. The in-laws wanted to live with us. It began when my father-in-law said, "I'm very busy. It'd be nice to have someone look after mom." And my husband was also in favor of living together. "I'm worried about mom too. After all, I've spent my time in this house, and moving now would just be a hassle." That's what he said. The chance of me opposing living together was practically zero. When asked about her opinions, the mother-in-law responded, "If everyone's so concerned, I guess it's better to live together, right? Katie, do you have any objections?" At that point, it became impossible for me to decline. That's how I unexpectedly ended up living with my in-laws, my mother-in-law who opposed my working. Once we started living together, she tormented me, trying to make me quit my job. First off, she dumped all the household chores on me, even though I was working. Of course, if she wasn't satisfied, redoing everything was a given. At first, the complaints were about minor things, like a speck of dust in a corner or a hair in the drain. But I learned from these complaints and began to clean these spots more thoroughly. Then my mother-in-law began checking places like behind the TV or between dressers for dust, spots not usually cleaned. I thought, there's no way these spots are included in regular cleaning. So, I once talked back to her. "I can't clean these spots every day. I work just like Sam does. I'll do a thorough cleaning on weekends, so there's no need to redo it today, right?" My mother-in-law's face turned red as she retorted, "How dare you talk back to me like that? Times have changed. It's unthinkable for a daughter-in-law to be so cheeky." And in her anger, she called for Sam. "Sam," Katie yelled at me. I kindly pointed out spots she missed in cleaning. I did it for her own good. And yet, she treats me this way. She played the victim card to Sam and faked her tears, but I thought, Sam will take my side. "Mom, Katie is working too. Maybe you could cut her some slack, just like this." But reality was different. "Katie, why would you upset mom like that? She was just trying to help, wasn't she? Why are you getting mad?" Sam scolded me. So, in the end, Sam was on her side. I realized then, the only person I could rely on in this house was my father-in-law. But he was rarely home due to his busy schedule. I have to fend for myself. That's what I thought, at least. From then on, I stopped confronting my mother-in-law. No matter what I said, she would tell Sam, and I'd be the one feeling down. It's better just to quietly listen to her. That's what I started to think. Knowing Sam wouldn't help, this was the only way I could live in peace in this house. I continued living this way for a year. Then, I started feeling unwell and decided to see a doctor. Turns out, it wasn't just a minor illness. I was pregnant. Knowing I was pregnant might change how my in-laws react. With a faint hope in mind, I first told my husband, "You know how I've been feeling off lately. I went to the doctor and guess what? I'm pregnant." Sam replied, "That's great. So, I'm going to be a dad, huh? Can't wait. Do we know the gender yet?" He was happy, but quickly moved on to the topic of the baby's gender. Not yet. Does it matter to you? Of course it does. It has to be a boy. Just as I thought. Sam is the only child of his parents. I had a vague feeling that having a boy might be important for someone to take over the family business. What if it turns out to be a girl? I started to fear knowing the baby's gender. But Sam said, "Don't worry, I'm sure it's a boy." I wasn't so sure. We decided to tell the in-laws only after we found out the gender. Later, we learned the gender. It was a girl. Of course, I was elated. I had no intention of discriminating based on gender. But Sam's reaction was, "What? A girl? Are you sure? Go get it checked again." If Sam reacted like this, I wondered how my mother-in-law would respond. I was truly afraid of telling her. Once Sam found out it was a girl, he seemed quite disappointed and started acting as if the pregnancy never happened. Still, the news needed to be shared. I can't avoid telling my in-laws. Somehow, I convinced Sam to tell his parents, "Well, I'm pregnant." My father-in-law reacted, "That's wonderful, Katie. We're finally going to have our first grandchild." My mother-in-law, on the other hand, immediately asked, "So, what's the gender?" With trepidation, I replied, "It's a girl." "A girl, huh? I hope she's as lovely as you, Katie." My father-in-law seemed unfazed by the gender. But my mother-in-law clearly showed her disappointment. A girl, not a boy. It has to be a boy for it to make sense for Sam. I was shocked to hear such a thing. But my father-in-law immediately scolded her. "Honey, why would you say that? Whether it's a boy or a girl, they're still our grandchild. Can't you just be happy?" My mother-in-law seemed a bit down after being told something by my father-in-law, but I believe it's only temporary. I'm certain that once he is out of the picture, she'll surely have some complaints. My hunch was right. As soon as he left for work, she told me, "Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can slack off on the housework. You're not planning to quit your job, are you? If not, continue with the chores as you've been doing. Pregnancy isn't an illness, you know." Never did I think I'd hear the phrase "pregnancy isn't an illness" from another woman, especially one who had given birth herself. All of this made me question whether I had made the right choice to have my child here. My family home is about a 3-hour train ride from here. My dad passed away early, and now my mom and my single older sister live there together. Maybe if I explain the situation to them, the two of them might be willing to take me in. I thought that staying in my in-laws' place might not be the safest for childbirth, and remembered my family home might be a better option. I decided to contact my mom right away. "Mom, it's me, Katie. What's up? It's rare for you to call. I'm pregnant, and I was wondering if I could come home to give birth." "You're pregnant? You should have told us earlier. Congratulations. Come home for the delivery." "Of course, that's fine. But have you gotten permission from your in-laws?" "Well, not yet. If you discuss it properly and they agree, I don't mind at all. Mom told me to talk it out. So, for the safety of my baby, I decided to come home for the delivery." When I talked to my husband about it, he casually said, "Going home for the birth? Oh, I guess that's fine. My mom's here too, so things should be okay around the house." He quickly agreed. I thought my mother-in-law might oppose, so I decided to talk to my father-in-law. After some thought, I believe it'd be easier for everyone if I went home for the delivery. Would that be all right? Initially, he looked surprised but then said, "If that's what you want, Katie, then it's probably best. I won't oppose. Could you possibly talk to my mother-in-law on my behalf?" I asked. "Well, I'll tell her," he replied, seemingly agreeing to my request, and so I received permission to go home for the delivery without a hitch. On the day I was supposed to leave, I woke up to find that the luggage I'd packed was missing. Unfortunately, both my husband and father-in-law had left early for work. "Do you know where my luggage is?" I didn't want to ask my mother-in-law, but I had no choice. She said, "Oh, that luggage." I threw it all away. I don't need a daughter-in-law who's causing such trouble. Never come back. She grabbed me and shoved me out the front door. I didn't even have time to put on my shoes. All I had with me was my smartphone. I was practically in my pajamas, and mercilessly, the front door shut behind me, audibly locking itself. This means my mother-in-law is serious. She genuinely wants me out. That's what it felt like. Staying here, I was sure that door would never open again. With that thought, I started walking. But considering it was the peak of summer, I couldn't walk barefoot outside, so I sought refuge in a nearby diner. I called my mom from the only possession I had, my phone. She was furious and said she'd be here within an hour. Luckily, she was nearby, so it worked out. I spent that time at the diner while waiting for my mom. An hour later, my mom arrived and immediately drove me back to our family home. When we got there, my sister was waiting. I told them everything about my mother-in-law's actions and my husband's indifference. After hearing it all, my mom and sister left without a word. I had no idea what they were talking about. The next morning, being at my family home was refreshing. I was asked to fetch the newspaper, and when I opened the door, my mother-in-law and husband were outside, kneeling. "Katie, I'm so sorry. It was all my fault. Please, don't cut ties with my husband's company." My mother-in-law pleaded. "Katie, I'm sorry too. Please, can we resume business with my dad's company?" I had no idea what they were talking about. Then, from behind, my mom and sister showed up. "What on earth are you doing, causing a scene this early?" It was a stern voice from my mom. What on earth does resuming business mean? To avoid any further disturbance, my mom invited the two inside our home. Once inside and settled, my husband started talking. "Would you please consider resuming business dealings with my dad's company? My mom and sister run the company my dad left behind. What does it mean they're doing business with my father-in-law's company?" I asked my mom. "Did you have business with my father-in-law's company?" Mom replied, "Yes, with one of their group companies." My husband added, "Exactly. It's one of the major companies in their group, second only to the main office. And their top client is Katie's mom's company." I had no idea. Apparently, my husband was ill-informed. I was also in the dark about this, LOL. Come to think of it, I recall my mother and father-in-law mentioning something about always being in debt to each other when they first met. I cannot do business with a family where someone would send my precious daughter out looking like that with just her phone. I'm halting our business dealings. Then my mother-in-law, looking pale, pleaded, "Please, I beg you. I'll do anything. Could you reconsider halting the dealings with my husband's company? I'll do whatever it takes." My sister then smirked. "You said you'll do anything, right? So you'll approve of Katie's divorce. And you'll of course pay alimony and child support, right?" Well, bringing up my divorce at this moment, smart move sis. Actually, before contacting my mom yesterday, I had reached out to my husband. His response was, "It's what you deserve, right? I agree with my mom. I won't come to help." With that, whatever little love I had left for him was gone. I would have brought up divorce anyway if my sister hadn't, but thanks to my sister's timing, the conversation seems to be turning in our favor. My mother-in-law then asked, "Yes, even if it means a divorce, if it resumes business with my husband's company." My mom then smirked, took out her phone, and started speaking into it. It seems the lady here agrees to my daughter's divorce. From the speaker, a voice could be heard. "Got it. Hey, is Jenna there?" It was my father-in-law's voice. Jenna is my mother-in-law's name. "Jenna, I'm divorcing you. And Sam, you're fired. That's one of the conditions for resuming business. Plus, I cannot forgive the two of you for how you treated Katie. You both deserve to be punished." Due to my father-in-law's words, my mother-in-law lost her husband, and my husband lost his job, money, and family. The story continues. The divorce between my in-laws was a tough one, but it eventually went through. I heard a top-notch lawyer from my father-in-law's side forcefully settled things in the end. During the divorce, there was a division of assets, and my mother-in-law apparently spent a significant amount of money as compensation to me. My husband and I also got divorced. There was no way I could lead a harmonious life with a husband who only did what his mother told him to. I received compensation for the pain my mother-in-law and husband had caused me, and also child support for our unborn child. It seems a considerable amount was paid from their savings, but they had to take on some debt. On top of that, he lost his job. He's been trying to find a new job, but due to the influence of my father-in-law and mom, he hasn't been able to secure one. As a result, he had no choice but to switch careers. It seems he quickly jumped into customer service, but my husband, who underestimated the job, faced a storm of complaints and was fired in no time. Now, he's living with his mom and barely getting by with daily wage jobs. My mother-in-law and my husband, who once led a lavish life thanks to my father-in-law, now live in a tiny one-bedroom apartment. Their close relationship seems to have deteriorated, and they apparently argue all the time. I wonder if there's any hope or joy left in their lives. As for me, I safely gave birth back home. A healthy baby girl. I plan to focus on raising her with the support of my mom and sister. Once things settle down, I'm considering working at my mom's company. I did inform my ex-husband about the birth of our daughter, but there hasn't been any follow-up from him. Guess that's how much he cared. All I want from him is to make sure he pays child support. I have no intentions of letting him see our daughter for the rest of her life. From now on, I plan to move forward and live my life with my daughter, relying on the support from those around us.